Captain Jake Morrison walked across the bridge of the USS Titan with his morning coffee in hand. The stars stretched endlessly outside the main view screen, just like they had for the past 3 weeks. His ship was on routine patrol along the edge of human space, checking trade routes and making sure everything stayed peaceful. "Status report," Jake said to his second-in-command, Commander Lisa Grant. She was standing at the tactical station, her blonde hair pulled back in regulation style. "All quiet, Captain," Lisa replied. "We're on schedule to reach the next checkpoint in 6 hours. No unusual readings on any scanners." Jake nodded and settled into his command chair. The USS Titan was a heavy cruiser, one of the newest in the human fleet. 800 crew members called it home, and Jake was proud of every single one of them. They were good people doing important work, even if that work seemed boring most days. Lieutenant Commander Paul Davis looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, all systems are running smoothly. The new reactor modifications are working better than expected." "Good to hear, Paul," Jake said. He trusted his chief engineer completely. Paul had been with him for 5 years, ever since Jake got his first command. The man could fix anything and make it run better than when it was new. Dr. Amy Stone entered the bridge carrying her medical scanner. She was making her daily rounds, checking on the bridge crew's health. "Everyone's looking good," she announced with a smile. "Though I think some of you could use more sleep." Jake laughed. "We'll sleep when we get back to Earth, Doc." The bridge was quiet and efficient. These people had worked together for years. They knew each other's habits, trusted each other's skills, and functioned like a family. Jake often thought this was what made human ships different from the alien vessels he had seen. Humans formed bonds that went beyond simple duty. Most alien species in the galaxy thought humans were interesting, but not particularly important. They had only been part of the Galactic Federation for 300 years, which was nothing compared to civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. Humans were seen as useful workers and decent traders, but not much else. The Altarians, with their blue skin and wise expressions, treated humans like promising students. The Karathi warriors respected human courage but thought they lacked proper training. The Zephyrians barely acknowledged human existence at all, viewing them as primitive newcomers who would eventually learn their place. Jake had met representatives from all these species during his career. Some were friendly, others were cold, but most just seemed to tolerate humanity's presence in their ancient galaxy. That was fine with Jake. Humans didn't need to be the center of attention. They just wanted to explore, trade, and build a better life for their people. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Maria Santos from the communications station. "I'm picking up a distress signal." Jake immediately stood up. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was human, filled with panic and static. "This is the cargo ship Golden Dawn. We've lost engine power and life support is failing. Our position is in the Kepler asteroid field. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need immediate assistance." "How many people on board?" Jake asked. 17 crew members, sir. We have maybe 6 hours of emergency power left." Jake looked at Lisa. "How long to reach their position?" Lisa checked her console quickly. 4 hours at maximum speed, Captain." "Set course immediately," Jake ordered. "Paul, I need everything you can give me from the engines." "You'll have it, sir," Paul replied, his fingers already dancing across his controls. Dr. Stone stepped forward. "I'll prepare medical teams. If they've been without proper life support, they might need immediate treatment." Jake nodded. This was why he loved his crew. Everyone knew their job and did it without hesitation. In the human fleet, leaving people to die was never an option. It didn't matter if they were strangers or what the risk might be. When someone called for help, humans responded. "Captain," Maria said, "I'm trying to get more information from the Golden Dawn, but their signal is breaking up. The asteroid field might be interfering with communications." "Keep trying," Jake told her. "Let them know help is coming." As the USS Titan changed course and increased speed, Jake felt the familiar weight of command. 800 people depended on his decisions. Right now, 17 more people were counting on him to save their lives. It was exactly the kind of situation that made him proud to wear a human uniform. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "the asteroid field where they're located is pretty isolated. No regular shipping lanes go through there." "What are you thinking?" Jake asked. "Just wondering what a cargo ship was doing out there in the first place," she replied. Jake considered this. Lisa had good instincts about these things. But right now, 17 people needed help, and that was all that mattered. They could figure out the details later. Maria, send a message to fleet headquarters, Jake ordered. Tell them we're responding to a distress call, and we'll be delayed returning to our scheduled route. Message sent. Captain, Maria confirmed. The USS Titan rushed through space toward the asteroid field. Jake watched the stars shift on the view screen as they changed course. Somewhere ahead, people were waiting for rescue. It was a situation humans had faced countless times throughout their history, both on Earth and among the stars. What Jake didn't know was that 300 light-years away, Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire was watching long-range sensors. The reptilian commander had been planning this moment for months. His scales were dark green with anticipation, and his yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction. The human ship has taken the bait, Vextar told his bridge crew. They are coming to rescue their precious civilians just as we predicted. The Zephyrian fleet had been waiting in the asteroid field for weeks. 12 powerful battlecruisers hidden among the rocks ready to spring their trap. They had used a captured human cargo ship to send the distress signal, knowing that human nature would compel a response. Shall we prepare to attack immediately when they arrive? Asked Sub-Admiral Kethra. No, Vextar replied with a cold smile.
Let them arrive.
Let them see how hopeless their situation is. Then we will show them what happens to species that dare to expand into Zephyrian space. The USS Titan continued toward its destination, unaware that it was flying into the most carefully planned ambush in galactic history. Captain Morrison and his crew were focused on saving lives, never imagining that someone would use human compassion as a weapon against them. The trap was set, and everything was about to change. The USS Titan dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler asteroid field. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, studying the massive rocks floating in space ahead of them. Some were as big as mountains, creating a dangerous maze that would require careful navigation. I'm not detecting the Golden Dawn on long-range sensors, reported Lieutenant Maria Santos from Communications. They might be deep in the field, Commander Lisa Grant said from Tactical. The asteroids could be blocking our scans. Take us in slowly, Jake ordered. Paul, keep our shields up. Those rocks can shift without warning. Lieutenant Commander Paul Davis nodded from engineering. Shields at full power, Captain. All systems ready. The USS Titan moved carefully between the floating mountains of rock and ice. The bridge crew watched their screens intently, searching for any sign of the disabled cargo ship. Everyone was focused on the rescue mission ahead. Dr. Amy Stone had her medical team standing by in the sick bay. Captain, we're ready to receive casualties. I've prepared 17 beds in emergency treatment areas. Good work, Doc, Jake replied. He was proud of how quickly his crew had responded to the emergency. This was what humans did best, helping others in trouble. Contact, Maria suddenly announced. I'm picking up the Golden Dawn's transponder signal. Bearing 27 Mark IV. On screen, Jake ordered. The view screen showed a human cargo ship drifting between several large asteroids. Its hull was dark, with no lights visible except for a few emergency beacons flashing weakly. Life signs? Jake asked. I'm reading 17 humans aboard, Lisa confirmed. Weak but alive. Jake was about to order a rescue team to prepare when warning alarms suddenly filled the bridge. Red lights flashed as the ship's computers detected multiple contacts appearing on sensors. Captain, Lisa shouted. 12 ships decloaking around us. They're Zephyrian battlecruisers. Jake's blood turned cold as he saw the trap they had walked into. Massive alien warships materialized from behind asteroids where they had been hiding. Each ship was twice the size of the USS Titan, bristling with weapons and painted in the dark colors of the Zephyrian Empire. Battle stations, Jake commanded. Throughout the ship, alarms sounded as 800 crew members rushed to their emergency positions. All hands, this is the captain. We are under attack. This is not a drill. A new voice came through the communication system, harsh and alien. Human vessel. This is Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. You have entered space claimed by the Empire. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Lisa was checking weapon systems. Paul was routing power to shields. Maria was trying to send a distress call to human space. Dr. Stone was preparing for combat casualties. None of them showed fear, only determination. Open a channel, Jake told Maria. Channel open, sir. Jake stood up from his command chair and faced the main screen. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Titan. You have committed an act of war against humanity. We are on a rescue mission for civilian lives. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Harsh laughter came through the speakers. Admiral Vextar's reptilian face appeared on screen, his yellow eyes gleaming with amusement. "Consequences? You are one ship against 12. Your arrogance is amusing but pointless. Surrender now and some of you may survive." "Lisa," Jake said quietly. "Status of our weapons?" "All weapon systems charged and ready, Captain," she replied without taking her eyes off her console. "Paul, can you give me more power to shields?" "Already pushing the reactor beyond normal limits, sir." "We'll have everything you need." Jake looked at the alien admiral on the screen. "We don't surrender. That's not who we are." Vextar's expression turned cold. "Then you will die as an example to your species. All ships open fire." The space around the USS Titan exploded with energy beams and missile strikes. The Zephyrian ships attacked from all sides, their weapons designed to quickly destroy any opposition. They expected the human ship to be crippled or destroyed in the first few minutes. Instead, something happened that shocked the alien crews. The USS Titan didn't just survive the first attack, it fought back. "Return fire," Jake commanded. "All weapons target the nearest ship." The human warship's guns blazed to life, sending streams of energy and missiles toward the closest Zephyrian battlecruiser. The aliens had expected their superior numbers to end the fight quickly, but they hadn't counted on human engineering and determination. "Direct hit on target 1, Lisa reported. "Their shields are down to 60%. "Keep firing," Jake ordered. "Paul, I need more power to weapons." "You've got it, Captain." Paul's voice came through the intercom from engineering. Down in the engine room, he was pushing the ship's reactor beyond its safety limits, giving the weapon systems every bit of power they could handle. The battle raged through the asteroid field. The USS Titan twisted between the floating rocks, using them for cover while firing at the alien ships. The Zephyrians had expected an easy victory, but they found themselves in a real fight. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Lieutenant Commander Davis. "Damage control teams responding." "Casualty reports coming in," Dr. Stone announced grimly. "Medical teams are handling them." The fight continued for hours. The USS Titan was heavily outnumbered, but the crew fought with a fierce determination that confused the aliens. Every time the Zephyrians thought they had the upper hand, the humans found a way to strike back. "Captain," Lisa called out. "Zephyrian Ship 3 is breaking apart." "That's our 4th kill." Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. Against impossible odds, his ship had destroyed 4 enemy battlecruisers and damaged several others. But the cost was terrible. Damage reports were coming in from all over the ship. "Sir," Maria said with tears in her eyes, "I've lost contact with Commander Grant's tactical station. Direct hit on that section of the bridge." Jake turned to see that Lisa's station was destroyed, her chair empty. His second in command, his friend, was gone. Around the bridge, other stations showed damage from the battle. "Captain," Paul's voice crackled through the damaged intercom system. "I don't know how much longer we can keep this up. We're losing power on multiple decks." 3 more Zephyrian ships suddenly turned away from the battle, their captains deciding they had seen enough. Admiral Vextar's voice came through the communications one last time, filled with disbelief and anger. "This is impossible. One human ship cannot defeat the Imperial fleet." "We just did," Jake replied, though his voice was heavy with grief for his fallen crew members. The remaining Zephyrian ships retreated, leaving the USS Titan alone among the asteroids. The human ship was heavily damaged, with fires burning on multiple decks and systems failing throughout the vessel. Dr. Stone's voice came through the intercom with the news Jake had been dreading. "Captain, final casualty count, 400 dead, 200 wounded. Half his crew was gone." But they had won an impossible victory against overwhelming odds. More importantly, they had sent a message to the galaxy that humans would not go quietly into the night. The USS Titan began its long journey home, carrying news that would change everything. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours of the USS Titan's emergency transmission, every major government and news organization knew about the battle in the Kepler asteroid field. A single human warship had fought 12 Zephyrian battlecruisers and somehow survived, destroying 4 enemy ships in the process. On the Federation capital world of Altair Prime, Ambassador Helen Clark sat in an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The massive chamber buzzed with dozens of different languages as representatives from hundreds of worlds discussed what had happened. The air was thick with tension and disbelief. "This is an unprecedented act of aggression," declared Ambassador Thais of the Altarian Council, his blue skin darker than usual with concern. "The Zephyrian Empire has attacked a Federation member without provocation." From across the chamber, the Zephyrian representative, Ambassador Krexnal, stood with his scales flashing angry colors. "The humans entered space that rightfully belongs to the Empire. They were warned to stay away from our territory." Helen stood up, her voice clear and strong. The USS Titan was responding to a distress call from civilian lives in danger. That is not an act of war. That is basic decency. Something your empire clearly doesn't understand. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some species nodded in agreement while others whispered nervously among themselves. The battle had shocked everyone, but for different reasons. The Karathi representative, a tall warrior named Brakthos, spoke with grudging respect in his voice. "We have reviewed the battle recordings. The human ship fought with honor against impossible odds. This is worthy of recognition." Other voices weren't so supportive. Ambassador Zelkira of the Nexus Coalition stood with her insect-like features clicking disapproval. "The humans provoked this conflict by expanding too aggressively into disputed space. They must accept responsibility for the consequences." Helen felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. 400 human beings died yesterday. They died trying to save civilian lives. Anyone who calls that provocation doesn't understand what humanity stands for. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Daniel Wright stood before cameras in the White House, addressing not just his own planet, but the entire galaxy. Behind him, holographic displays showed the damaged USS Titan limping home and photos of the crew members who had died in the battle. "My fellow humans, and to all who are watching across the stars," President Wright began, "yesterday our people faced a test. The Zephyrian Empire believed they could teach us our place in the galaxy through violence and intimidation. They were wrong." The president's voice grew stronger as he continued. "The crew of the USS Titan showed the galaxy who we really are. When faced with impossible odds, they did not surrender. When threatened with death, they did not back down. They fought for their ship, their crewmates, and the innocent lives they had set out to save." Footage from the USS Titan's black box played on screens across human space. People watched Captain Morrison refuse to surrender, saw Commander Grant at her station until the moment she died, witnessed the entire crew fighting with desperate courage against overwhelming odds. "The Zephyrians made a fundamental error," Wright said, his eyes hard with determination. "They thought one battle would break our spirit. They thought we would retreat and hide. They have learned nothing about human nature from our history." On the bridge of the damaged USS Titan, now 3 days into their journey home, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair staring at empty stations. Commander Grant's tactical post remained dark, a reminder of the price they had paid. Lieutenant Commander Paul Davis had been promoted to first officer, but the promotion felt hollow with so many friends gone. "Captain," said Lieutenant Maria Santos from Communications, "we're receiving messages from all over human space. The President wants to speak with you personally when we reach Earth." Jake nodded but didn't respond immediately. He was still processing what they had accomplished. His ship had been outgunned 12-1 and somehow survived. More importantly, they had proven something to the galaxy that he wasn't sure even humans had fully understood about themselves. Dr. Amy Stone entered the bridge carrying her medical scanner and a tired expression. She'd been working around the clock treating the wounded and trying to save lives. "Captain, I've been analyzing biological samples from the Zephyrian ships that we collected during the battle." "Find anything interesting?" Jake asked. "More than interesting," Amy replied. "Their biology has some significant weaknesses that nobody in the galaxy seems to know about. This information could be valuable if there are more conflicts ahead." Paul looked up from his new position at the first officer's station. "Do you think there will be more fights, Captain?" Jake considered the question carefully. The battle had changed something fundamental in how the galaxy viewed humanity. Some species would respect them more now, but others might see them as a threat that needed to be eliminated quickly. "I think the galaxy is going to be very different from now on." Jake said finally. Back on Altair Prime, the emergency council session continued through the night. Species that had barely acknowledged human existence were now debating what the battle meant for galactic politics. The humans have proven they cannot be easily intimidated, observed Chancellor Mordak of the Trade Federation. This changes the balance of power in several regions of space. Ambassador Helen Clark seized the moment. Humanity has never sought to dominate anyone. We want peaceful cooperation and mutual respect. But we will defend ourselves and innocent lives. The USS Titan proved that yesterday. Some representatives looked uncomfortable with this new reality. For centuries, conflicts in the galaxy had been settled through politics, economics, or overwhelming force applied by major powers. The idea that a relatively small species could fight back effectively against one of the traditional powers was disturbing to many. What guarantee do we have that humanity won't use this military capability aggressively? Asked Ambassador Thiss. The same guarantee you had before yesterday, Helen replied. Our actions speak for themselves. The USS Titan was on a rescue mission when they were attacked. Even outnumbered 12-1, they continued trying to save civilian lives while fighting for their survival. 3 days later, news arrived that shocked the Council even more. The Zephyrian Empire was facing internal problems. Admiral Vextar, who had planned the demonstration against humanity, was being blamed for the disaster. 4 battle cruisers destroyed and several others damaged, all by a single human ship. It was a military humiliation that shook the Empire's confidence. The Zephyrian High Command is demanding explanations, reported Intelligence Chief Cara Bell to President Wright during a secure video conference. Our sources suggest there's serious political instability in their government right now. President Wright nodded grimly. What's the status of our own military preparations? Admiral Brooks has been placed in command of our new rapid response fleet, Cara reported. 50 new ships are being fast-tracked through production. We're also implementing the tactical innovations that Captain Morrison's crew developed during the battle. The president looked out the window of the Oval Office toward the stars. How long before we're ready for whatever comes next? 30 days for the first wave of ships, Cara replied. But sir, we're also receiving requests from other Federation species. Some want to form defense agreements with us. Others are asking for human military advisors. For the first time since the battle, President Wright smiled. They're starting to understand that we're not the same species they thought we were. The USS Titan was still 2 weeks from Earth, but already the galaxy was changing. The battle that was supposed to teach humanity its place had instead announced that humans would no longer accept being treated as junior partners in galactic affairs. In the asteroid field where the battle had taken place, Zephyrian salvage crews worked to recover their dead and study the wreckage of their ships. What they found only added to their confusion and fear. The human weapons had been more effective than expected. The human ship had been more durable. Most disturbing of all, the human tactics had been completely unpredictable, as if they fought by different rules than the rest of the galaxy. Admiral Vextar, now facing a military tribunal for his failure, couldn't explain how one human ship had changed everything. But across the galaxy, everyone was beginning to understand that the balance of power had shifted forever. 30 days after the Battle of Kepler asteroid field, the galaxy learned what human determination really meant. Admiral Kate Brooks stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, watching as 49 other newly constructed warships took their positions in formation around her flagship. The human shipyards had worked around the clock, using every lesson learned from the USS Titan's desperate fight. Engineers had studied the battle recordings frame by frame, analyzing what worked and what didn't. The result was 50 ships, built with one purpose, to ensure no human vessel would ever again fight alone against impossible odds. All ships report ready for departure, announced Commander Rick Stone from the communication station. He was Dr. Amy Stone's younger brother, recently promoted to serve as Admiral Brooks's second-in-command. Take us out, Admiral Brooks ordered. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity is no longer hiding behind Federation protection. The Rapid Response Fleet moved through space like a pack of wolves, each ship bristling with new weapons and armor designs. Word of their departure spread quickly through galactic intelligence networks. 50 human warships moving together was something the galaxy had never seen before. On Earth, President Daniel Wright met with his military advisors in the Pentagon Situation Room. The holographic display showed not just the new fleet, but also the political changes happening across human space. Recruitment is up 400%, reported General Linda Hayes, Chief of Staff for Human Defense Forces. Young people are lining up to join the fleet. The Battle of the USS Titan has become a rallying cry. What about the other Federation species? Wright asked. Are they still supporting us? It's complicated, replied Intelligence Director Kara Bell. 12 species have requested military cooperation agreements with us, but others are getting nervous about human military expansion. They're worried we might become the next aggressive power in the galaxy. Wright nodded. He had expected this reaction. For centuries, the galaxy had been controlled by a few major powers who kept smaller species in line through intimidation. Now humanity was proving that those traditional powers could be challenged. Sir, General Hayes continued, we're also receiving applications from alien species who want to serve in human ships. Apparently word has spread about how we treat our crew members during combat. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new command, the USS Retribution. The ship was larger and more powerful than the USS Titan, incorporating all the hard-won lessons from that terrible battle. More importantly, it was crewed by survivors from the Titan Plus volunteers who had been inspired by their story. Captain, reported his new first officer, Lieutenant Commander Paul Davis, we've just received orders from Admiral Brooks. The Zephyrian Empire is massing ships near the border. Intelligence suggests they're planning a full-scale invasion. Jake felt a familiar cold anger settle in his stomach. The Zephyrians hadn't learned their lesson from the first battle. They still thought humans could be intimidated into submission. How many ships are they bringing? Jake asked. 200 battlecruisers, plus support vessels, Paul replied grimly. Dr. Amy Stone, now serving as Chief Medical Officer for the entire Rapid Response Fleet, entered the bridge with a data pad in her hands. Captain, I've finished my analysis of Zephyrian biology from the samples we collected. I've found something that could change everything. What did you discover? Jake asked. Their respiratory systems are extremely sensitive to a particular frequency of sound waves, Amy explained. If we can generate the right frequency during combat, we can disrupt their ability to function effectively. It won't kill them, but it will make them sick and disoriented. Jake looked at Paul. Can our ships generate those frequencies? We can modify our communication arrays, Paul replied. It would take a few hours to make the adjustments. Do it, Jake ordered. Pass the information to Admiral Brooks immediately. If the Zephyrians want another fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget. 3 days later, the Zephyrian invasion force arrived at Proxima Station, the outermost human military base. Admiral Vextar, somehow managing to retain his command despite his previous failure, led 200 ships in a formation designed to overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers. Human forces. Vextar's voice crackled through space communications. You are outnumbered 4-1. Surrender now and we will show mercy. Continue to resist and your species will be eliminated from this region of space. Admiral Brooks responded from the USS Defiant, her voice calm and controlled. Admiral Vextar, you made the mistake of attacking one of our ships once before. Today you'll learn why that was the biggest error in Zephyrian history. The space around Proxima Station erupted in the largest battle the galaxy had seen in over a century. 200 alien ships attacked 50 human vessels, expecting to crush them through overwhelming firepower. Instead, they discovered that everything had changed. The human ships fought with coordinated precision that shocked the alien commanders. Captain Morrison's tactics, learned through desperate necessity in the asteroid field, had become standard doctrine for the entire fleet. Human ships moved like dancers, covering each other's weaknesses while focusing their firepower on carefully chosen targets. All ships, implement Soundwave Protocol, Admiral Brooks commanded when the Zephyrian formation began its attack run. Across the human fleet, communication arrays suddenly began broadcasting specific frequencies into space. The effect on the alien crews was immediate and devastating. Zephyrian ship commanders found themselves dizzy and disoriented, unable to coordinate their attacks effectively. Direct hit on flagship target, reported Captain Morrison from the USS Retribution. Their command ship is drifting out of formation. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Zephyrians had expected to use their superior numbers to crush human resistance quickly. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that had learned from every mistake, that refused to break under pressure, and that seemed to get stronger the longer the battle continued. "Captain," Paul Davis called out from his station on the USS Retribution, "18 Zephyrian ships have been destroyed. 23 more are retreating from the battle zone." Jake watched the alien ships flee on his view screen. Less than 6 months ago, his ship had barely survived against 12 enemy vessels. Today, 50 human ships had broken the back of a force 4 times their size. Dr. Amy Stone's voice came through the fleet communication system with casualty reports. "All ships medical status report, 47 wounded, 0 dead. Repeat, 0 human fatalities." A cheer went up across the entire fleet. They had won a complete victory without losing a single life. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. Admiral Vextar's final transmission came through as his remaining ships fled towards Zephyrian space. "This is impossible. No species fights like this. You are animals." "Monsters," Admiral Brooks replied with ice in her voice. "No, Admiral. We're humans, and you just learned what that really means." The victory at Proxima Station sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. In the Federation Council chambers on Altair Prime, ambassadors who had dismissed humanity just months before now spoke in hushed tones about human military capabilities. They didn't just defeat a superior force, observed the Karathi, Representative Brakthos. They achieved total victory with minimal losses. This level of military effectiveness is unprecedented. Ambassador Helen Clark stood before the council with quiet pride. "Humanity has never sought to conquer anyone, but we will defend ourselves and those who cannot defend themselves. The Zephyrian Empire learned that lesson twice now. We hope others will learn it without forcing us to teach it again." Behind closed doors, 12 different species had already sent private messages to Earth requesting defense treaties. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently, and everyone knew it. On the USS Retribution, Captain Morrison sat in his quarters writing letters to the families of the crew members who had died in the original battle. Their sacrifice had made today's victory possible. They had bought humanity the time and knowledge needed to transform from victims into a force that could protect innocent life throughout the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire would never again underestimate human resolve. More importantly, no other species would make the same mistake. Humanity had announced its presence in the galaxy in the most unmistakable way possible. They had proven that some things were worth fighting for, no matter the odds. 6 months after the attack on the USS Titan, the galaxy had become a completely different place. The Zephyrian Empire, once proud and aggressive, now faced revolution at home as their people demanded answers for the military disasters that had cost them 60% of their fleet. Emperor Krexthul, the ancient ruler who had approved the original attack on humanity, sat on his throne receiving the most humiliating report in Zephyrian history. His military commanders, the few who had survived the battles with human forces, stood before him with their scales pale with defeat. "The humans have agreed to our surrender terms," reported General Sektar, his voice barely above a whisper. "Complete withdrawal from all disputed territories, war crimes tribunals for military leaders, and reparations equal to 50 years of our military budget." The Emperor's claws scraped against his throne as he considered the complete destruction of everything his empire had built over thousands of years. How did this happen? How did one species change everything so quickly? "They fight like no one else in the galaxy," General Sektar replied. "Every human ship is willing to sacrifice itself for their fleet. Every human soldier treats their fellow crew members like family. When you attack one of them, you attack all of them. We never understood this until it was too late." Meanwhile, in the Federation Council chambers on Altair Prime, the most important political session in galactic history was taking place. Representatives from hundreds of worlds had gathered to formally acknowledge what everyone already knew. Humanity was no longer a junior member of galactic civilization. Ambassador Helen Clark stood at the podium wearing her formal diplomatic uniform, but her words carried the quiet confidence of someone whose people had proven themselves in the hardest way possible. Behind her, holographic displays showed human ships patrolling trade routes that had been plagued by pirates for decades, now completely safe under human protection. The Federation Charter will be amended today to give humanity permanent seats on the ruling council, announced Chancellor Thys of the Altarian Council. This decision is unanimous among all voting members. Applause filled the chamber, though Helen noticed it was respectful rather than enthusiastic from some species. They accepted human power because they had to, not because they wanted to. That was fine with her. Respect earned through strength was better than no respect at all. We accept this responsibility with gratitude and humility, Helen said to the assembly. Humanity will use its voice on the council to protect those who cannot protect themselves and to ensure that what happened to the USS Titan never happens to any peaceful vessel. Again, from his seat in the observer section, Ambassador Krexnal of the defeated Zephyrian Empire watched with bitter hatred. His species had ruled through fear for millennia, only to be brought low by creatures they had considered barely above animals. The humiliation was almost unbearable. Admiral Kate Brooks sat in her command chair aboard the USS Defiant, now serving as the flagship for humanity's expanded fleet. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy showing how much things had changed. Admiral, reported Commander Rick Stone from Communications, we've received formal requests for human military advisors from 18 different species. The Karathi want us to help train their warriors. The Nexus Coalition is asking for protection against pirate raids in their territory. What's our response? Admiral Brooks asked. President Wright has approved limited advisory missions for our allies, Rick replied. We're also establishing permanent human naval bases in 12 systems that requested our protection. Brooks nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy was learning that human friendship came with real benefits, while human anger came with devastating consequences. It was a lesson that would prevent countless conflicts in the future. On the bridge of the USS Retribution, Captain Jake Morrison reviewed reports from his crew as they patrolled the former Zephyrian border. The alien empire's territory was now mostly empty space, with refugee ships carrying millions of displaced aliens seeking new homes in Federation space. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Paul Davis said from his station, we're receiving a distress call from a Zephyrian civilian transport. Engine failure, 2,000 passengers including children. Jake didn't hesitate for even a moment. Set course to intercept. Dr. Stone, prepare medical teams for possible refugees. Paul looked surprised. Sir, these are the same people who attacked us. No, Jake corrected him. The people who attacked us were soldiers following orders from leaders who made terrible decisions. These are families trying to find safety. We help people in need, Paul. That's who we are. Dr. Amy Stone entered the bridge carrying her medical scanner. The irony isn't lost on me, Captain. 6 months ago, they tried to kill us for rescuing civilians. Now we're rescuing their civilians. That's the difference between us and them, Jake replied. We don't change who we are based on who needs help. As the USS Retribution moved to help the alien refugees, Jake thought about how much had changed since that terrible day in the asteroid field. Commander Lisa Grant and 400 other crew members had died believing they were just doing their duty. They couldn't have imagined that their sacrifice would reshape galactic civilization. On Earth, President Daniel Wright stood in the Rose Garden addressing a crowd of reporters and citizens. Behind him, the night sky showed the lights of orbital shipyards working around the clock to build humanity's expanding fleet. Today marks exactly 6 months since the attack on the USS Titan, Wright began. In that time, we have seen the best and worst of what intelligent species can be. We have seen cowardice and courage, hatred and honor, fear and hope. The president's voice grew stronger as he continued. The crew of the USS Titan faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. They fought not for conquest or glory, but to save lives and protect the innocent. Their example has inspired not just our own people, but species across the galaxy who had forgotten what it means to stand up for what is right. In the crowd, families of the USS Titan's casualties listened with tears in their eyes and pride in their hearts. Their loved ones had died as heroes, and the galaxy would never forget their sacrifice. Some ask if we have become too powerful, too aggressive, Wright continued. To them I say, watch what we do with this power. We use it to protect trade routes from pirates. We use it to rescue refugees regardless of their species. We use it to ensure that no peaceful vessel will ever again face the choice between surrender and death. Admiral Jake Morrison, now promoted to overall command of human naval forces, appeared via hologram to address the crowd. He stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, with the survivors of his original crew beside him. The memorial to the USS Titan stands on Luna Base, where every human officer can see it during their training, Morrison said. It bears the names of 400 brave souls who refused to yield when faced with overwhelming odds. Their sacrifice taught the galaxy a lesson that will prevent countless wars. Humanity will defend itself and innocent life anywhere in the universe. Paul Davis, now a full commander and captain of his own ship, nodded respectfully toward the camera. Dr. Amy Stone, whose medical research had helped win the final battle, raised her hand in salute to the memory of her fallen friends. The inscription on the memorial says it all, Morrison continued. They stood against impossible odds so that humanity would never bow. Because of them, no species in this galaxy will ever again mistake human compassion for weakness. As the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, families across human space looked up at the stars with new understanding. Their sons and daughters serving in the fleet weren't just explorers or traders anymore. They were protectors of a new galactic order based on justice rather than fear. In the deepest regions of space, where pirates and slavers had once operated freely, human patrol ships now ensured safe passage for all peaceful vessels. Trade flourished under human protection, and species that had been victims for centuries now lived without fear. The Zephyrian Empire's attempt to teach humanity its place had instead taught the galaxy that some species would never accept oppression. The attack on the USS Titan had been meant to break human spirit, but it had instead forged human resolve into something unbreakable. Captain Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, stood on his bridge looking out at the stars that humanity now helped protect. Somewhere in the distance, the USS Titan's wreckage still floated in the asteroid field, where everything had changed. It would remain there as a monument to courage and a warning to anyone who might threaten innocent life. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had found its place among the stars not as conquerors but as guardians, and everyone understood that this new reality would last as long as humans remembered the price that had been paid for it. They had targeted a human warship, and everything had changed that day. The change would echo through the galaxy for generations to come.